Hello everyone, my name's Alex Peck and I'm co-chair of the Programs Committee here at GYOPO. I'm very happy to welcome you all to this very special panel discussion where we'll be discussing the aesthetics and politics of cuteness, especially as it relates to the practices of these three artists that we have here with us today, followed by a discussion moderated by curator Sophia Park. Some of you may know that I moved here from New York a few years ago. So this program is very special to me because it brings together some of my New York community with my new LA community. GYOPO is a volunteer-run organization, and it's really through the generosity and talents and skills of our community members that we're able to offer free programs like this. If you'd like to sign up for our email newsletter or if you'd like to volunteer, we have a sign-up sheet in the back over there. You can leave your email if you want. I'm going to let our moderator, Sophia, introduce all the panelists. So for now, please join me in welcoming Sophia Park, Christina Yuna Ko, 𝓬𝓮𝓪𝓷𝓼, and Amy Yao.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you to GYOPO for hosting us. Thank you to Christina for really facilitating and organizing all of this. And I'm really happy to be joined by three amazing artists and artists that I really respect. Christina Yuna Ko, 𝓬𝓮𝓪𝓷𝓼, and Amy Yao. And I'll be brief. I don't want to get too much into the bio, but they're amazing. You should check out their work, definitely. And as for tonight, as Alex said, we'll be chatting all things cute, so be prepared. We have many slides and interesting things to cover. And we really want to get down to the complexities of cuteness and what it offers us and the possibilities. So we ask, if you have questions for us, keep them in mind. We'll have some time at the end for you to ask questions. And in terms of the general agenda order of things, we'll have presentations by each of the artists following the conversation, and then obviously we'll open it up to everyone else. And we just really hope that tonight's journey is just one step into figuring out what all of this means, and we hope that more conversations come to fruition from this. So I will pass it to Christina to get us started.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hello. I'm Christina Yuna Ko. First and foremost, what I wanted to say is that I'm incredibly grateful for this opportunity to be in conversation with such amazing people on a topic that's very close and dear to heart. So I really appreciate GYOPO for making the space for us, and all of you for being here tonight, and all of you for joining me in conversation. So I am an artist. I work across painting, sculpture, and installation. And to give a little bit of context on my work, I like to explore domestic space and its extensions into the public sphere, essentially, especially within enclave neighborhoods, trying to uncover an aesthetic vernacular that's rooted within like the Asian diasporic and the Asian American experience. I see the domestic as a site of potential imaginaries that can make visible the richness that's present in like very persistent everyday practices. So to start with, I just wanted to give a little brief sort of story as why I wanted this panel to happen, and sort of thinking about the impetus for this panel. As an artist whose work is identifiably cute, I've often been asked for my thoughts on cuteness, and more often than not why I'm not more explicitly critical of it in the work. And that's usually followed by suggestions to make things more saccharine or more grotesque or more sexualized. And these experiences have always, oh sorry.
Your hair is
Oh, covering?
Yeah.
Sorry. Let me angle myself this way. Yes. Yes, these experiences have always left me wondering why cuteness is an aesthetic that's only thought about so often in this very polarized form, and why it's so readily called into question in this sort of binary, whether you genuinely love it or are critical of it or you reject it. So, like, thinking about cuteness for myself, I think it's a very complex, very prolific, and living aesthetic. I think it encompasses a broad spectrum of agendas from the personal to the geopolitical. And then particularly today, thinking about how cuteness has crossed this geographical boundaries to become a global phenomena, I think it's really important to think about it and consider it with nuance and to give the stakeholders of it room to explore its breadth. So with this panel, I hope I can contribute to complicating what cute or cuteness can signify. And tonight I'll be speaking about what the range of cuteness I'm interested in exploring is and how that ties into how I approach it within my practice. So on that note, I wanted to start with how I was drawn to cuteness in the first place. For me, cuteness was an entry point to understanding my sort of quote-unquote Asianness in a way that presented without any friction that usually is present when navigating various cultural and social dissonances of being someone who is diasporic. And so this sort of affective quality of cuteness provided an outlet for me. It was like this instantaneous physiological connection or an embodied experience where I could just be like, oh my God, that's so cute. And so that's sort of why cuteness for me was like an entry point into understanding myself better. And then growing up on the East Coast, as a second generation Korean American, I became indoctrinated into cuteness, specifically the East Asian cute, through visits to local stationery stores, through the access and sort of popularity of Japanese media at the time in the 90s, as well as through my parents bringing home these imported wares and Korean pop culture into our home. So for me, cuteness was something very comfortable. It created a connection point to a culture that often felt very distant. As such, I think cuteness continues to stay with me, weaving through my family memories, sitting within the domestic wares that I use every day, and speaking in emoji form to my friends and family. I think it's a topic I continue to explore in my work because of my affinity towards it and its proliferation within my social, generational, and cultural context. One aspect of cuteness that I'm very interested in is its ability to be mobile and malleable. That enables it to sort of exist across a multiplicity of scales. My primary interest in it is on this sort of micro scale, where cuteness can operate as intimate gestures between friends, family, romantic partners, and even within the self. Or how it can be within the home or fill up a home because the enclave neighborhood nearby acts as this sort of local cute economy with small businesses taking up its aesthetic or selling its goods, which was how I entered into utilizing cuteness. And then at the same time, if you think about it at this macro level, you see it implemented in geopolitics as a strategy of soft power, as a product of globalized capitalism, which interestingly creates the ready accessibility of cute wares and a construct of what is considered cute. For example, just thinking about the Korean government's investment into K-pop, which changed, I think, the perception of when people hear I'm from Korea to having very limited understanding, only knowing the Korean War, to being able to understand cultural minutia, like what aegyo is, or being able to recite Korean slang. And then another avenue of cuteness that interests me is its adoption on the internet and social media. I think primarily because I also access it through that platform. That's a big resource for me, and sort of the ease of dissemination and generation of cute iconography on these platforms enables its widespread personal and commercial use, I think, through things like GIFs, emojis, memes, and filters. What I find interesting is that cuteness's ability to connect becomes very evident on these platforms because algorithms sort of by their nature start recommending additional content that sort of builds and feeds into this cute vernacular that you then sort of absorb and use as a form of self-expression. Given this, I think cuteness has this incredible potential to render visible the relational histories, identities, and cultural exchanges that it encompasses. and then coming back to my work, I use cuteness to reclaim it and utilize its ability to forge connections across its broad spectrum. I think it's important to do so because cuteness is an aesthetic that's so easily removed from its context, easily appropriated, easily dismissed, easily fetishized, and imposed upon perceptions of Asia and Asian bodies. One consistent part of my practice has been collecting cute domestic wares. That includes digital imagery and various paraphernalia as well. And I often use like family history, media platforms, domestic sites, and enclaves as reference points. The collected cute then emerges as recontextualized imagery, a vivid pastel palette, and a flat materiality. In doing so, I'm trying to build a vocabulary of cute that acts as a connective thread across found objects, paintings, moments in time, and memories of space. So one example, in this work behind me, titled Bathing in Public, I recreated a Korean public bath in response at the time to the closure of such communal spaces during the pandemic. Cuteness became a way of thinking or recreating the vocabulary of this private and public space that builds cultural and social customs into this very everyday routine of washing. So the cute enabled me to create a visual link between my personal memories of public baths and how that experience is expressed in other media like K-dramas or games like Animal Crossing, or other localities like there's a King Spa in New Jersey and We Spa here in LA. So in my work, I often recreate or include as found objects these domestic wares such as sponges, loofahs, and grocery ingredients. I think about how cuteness in this new context breaks these objects from their utility. They then become these visual and visible markers of the care and labor that's carried out within a domestic setting. Within the context of the cute, I think these objects also act as embodiments of femininity, carrying with them girlhood's capability and of being imaginative and transformative as they now sit in these reimagined landscapes. I think I continue to explore and engage with cuteness because it so much is encompassed within this aesthetic and can be evidenced in the home or sites close to very personal sites where there is this everyday sort of interaction and curation that's both intentional and unconscious of aesthetic objects, and where we sort of build our understanding of ourselves. Cuteness, for me, exists in my home on fly swatters, CDs, stationery. It exists on packaging, TV, and publications. Cute as an aesthetic can exist as imagery, object, and embodiment. I think mirroring cuteness's ability to transform, I also oscillate the form in my work between flat images and three-dimensional objects and things somewhere in between. I think the intimacy of cuteness, its malleability, and relationship to power echo my own experience as a diasporic person who carries with them the desire to belong, the ability to code switch, the need to appear harmless, and the power to both flourish and cherish. Because I think in its most insidious form, cuteness has been implemented to further racial and gender discrimination. I think it's important to complicate the discourse surrounding it and create space for whom cuteness is a part of their everyday to really explore it, whether that's using it as artwork, collecting it, or expressing it as like finger hearts and sparkling heart emojis between friends. Thank you very much. I have a QR code that has like a bunch of readings. Oh, I'm sorry. I did it in the wrong direction. But yeah, it's a link to all the readings and a variety of links that I used for the talk itself, if anybody's interested.
Thank you.
Oh yes.
Thank you. It's very generous.
Oh yes. And then on that note, I will switch to this.
Yeah,
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Lulu. I met Christina last year during a zine residency where I published an index on Asian art collectives. Archives can sometimes be seen as cold, sterile, and impersonal, and yet personal archives and collections are anything but that. With this physical object, I wanted to make something that felt personal and precious. Actually, I think GYOPO is in this deck, by the way. The cards are housed in a pine box and wrapped in a furoshiki with a small pen for users to contribute to the deck. The evidence of my own hand on the work, stamping each one and tying each furoshiki, makes me feel connected to every person who picks up the box. Cuteness is also often personal. It incites an attachment to living and non-living things. In 2018, I started Far Near, an artist-run cross-cultural book series that broadens perspectives of Asia through image, person, idea, and history to unlearn the inherent dominative mode. From Turkey to Japan and everywhere in between, we feature artists that have a strong voice, whether it be linked to their heritage, pop culture, or a unique approach to life. The variety is meant to show the vast number of voices within Asian creativity. The font's a little messed up, sorry about that, but these are some of the artists that we've worked with in the past few years. And these are some of the stories we've created and featured in our books. In regards to cuteness, I'd like to show a few collaborations from our books that utilize this aesthetic in different ways. The first is with the Japanese animation duo 𝓐𝓐𝓏𝒂, who we commissioned a cover for our third volume. The theme was devotion. While many artists approach this theme through much heavier spiritual perspectives, 𝓐𝓐𝓏𝒂 interpreted the theme as something more everyday, endearing, and cute. The act of helping the elderly cross the street. So you could see that on this side. This one is actually a music video for a DJ. In our interview with the duo, they mentioned their use of iyashikyara, or a cute, heartwarming character, for their dolphin cartoon 𝓜𝓮𝓪𝓷𝓼. Quote, "We're aiming for a different feel from previous 𝓐𝓐𝓏𝒂 projects, trying for a character that is properly lovable to a wide range of people. We place great importance on this character being embraced by the people." In the case of 𝓦𝓱𝓪𝓽's photography, the use of children and flowers juxtapose the weight of a rapidly changing Chinese landscape. Cuteness often resonates with me when it's used to communicate a heavier subject. Much like with children's books, through cuteness, a message that might be controversial or scary can be delivered with a softer glow. In Volume 2, with the theme of taste, we created a photo story about censored subjects in Japan like weed, porn, and same-sex marriage using traditional sweets and gachapon toys. This is a portraiture of K-pop fans across the US, including examples of their collective power utilized to flood racist hashtags with K-pop content. In this case, cuteness was used to wash away and overpower hate. Most of us have probably heard of cute aggression, but I'm more interested in aggressive cuteness. How can it be used to make real change? There are so many ways in which cuteness is utilized and seen in our daily lives. Think of how the internet runs on cat videos. We embody cuteness, use it as a tool for communication. It's something we want to protect, something to entertain. And yet it has incredible power, the strength to impact industries and change people's perception of the world around them. The last thing I want to say is I'm also in LA for the LA Art Book Fair, so if you have time, come visit our booth far near P39.
Yes.
Hello, I'm Amy. I had to dress
in a cute outfit for this cute top. And this photo of me is actually from many years ago. I don't really look like this anymore. It's like 20 or more years ago. And I guess it's kind of cute, so I thought it could be appropriate. So I wanted to show you two quick references that kind of like resonate and live in the back of my mind, kind of randomly, like throughout life, since I've come across them. And one is this Jacques Brel song, Jackie, which Scott Walker sings, and he translated, which I think in French it was actually like pretty or something, but he translated as cute in a stupid ass way, which I thought is so funny. And then the other is this 𝓦𝓪𝓷𝓼 cartoon, which I actually reference a lot if somebody I know is like acting like 𝓦𝓪𝓷𝓼, or like, you know, like my child is acting like 𝓦𝓪𝓷𝓼 with my cat, then I'll reference it like, oh, you know, it's something that has lived with me for a long time. But yeah, this would be an example of cute aggression, which I guess has been a phenomenon that's been just talked about since 2012. But I just wanted to give you a little background. I am probably like, I don't know if I'm the shortest person on this panel, but I think I might be. And so therefore, like, the comment of "you are cute" has kind of followed me throughout my life. In fact, I think I was like the shortest person in my school for like my whole entire life, and like, you know, got like patted on the head in a very aggressive way that was very annoying. And so, you know, like, I have mixed feelings about cuteness, let me just say. And I think, you know, these feelings have evolved over time, so this is something I think about. So, okay, going back, sorry. I was in a band with my sister, who's taller than me, by quite a bit. She could be considered kind of tall, on the tall side. And my friend Emily, who's like around my height, who's Vietnamese American. And we were in this band from 1992 to 97 called 𝓦𝓱𝓪𝓽, which is also an acronym for ESL, which we were kind of playing around with our Asian American identity a bit. I hope I'm not talking to you. Am I talking to you? Okay. So, and just an example of how we were perceived by others, you can see this. This is a flyer from 𝓬𝓬𝒑𝒊𝒏𝒂, which is a punk club on Pico, not far from here actually. It was a punk club, and it says, "The cutest band in the world, 𝓦𝓱𝓪𝓽. So come early to see them." Which, you know, and then here's another example, which maybe it's a little hard to read, but it was in a Vogue magazine from that time period, and it says that we're teenage girls, music scene, bands of teenage girls have sprouted up with the names 𝓦𝓱𝓪𝓽. But then, you know, on the other side, like, let's just say like cute aggression maybe, I guess our cuteness as a band offended some people. And so somebody made a zine in like the Inland Empire where we got killed, and like, you know, it's kind of racist, like shows us as kind of like all the same slanty-eyed girl band, and like overly saccharine kind of, you know, way of acting. So, I mean, we ourselves, we didn't necessarily think of ourselves as being cute. I think we thought of ourselves as being annoying because we were always like giving older people a hard time, like asking them questions like if they needed their Centrum Silver. And calling them Jerry, which is very rude because now I'm probably of the age where I was making fun of people, you know, for my age. And so, but, you know, we were very annoyed with this whole, like, you're so cute business. We didn't really think of ourselves as being cute. And actually, like, my bandmate Emily, she was very ahead of, very smart person who was very ahead of her time, her age. Since she was 12 years old in junior high, she had a fanzine called 𝓾𝓪𝓽. And in the fanzine, she mostly wrote about this, like, very overly saccharine indie pop music that's extremely underground. And she kind of became a legend in that world this is like the early 90s, like 91, 92. Like in fact, this band Veronica Lake wrote a song about her called 𝓦𝓱𝓪𝓽, and predates our band. But you know, we were kind of interested in this like overly saccharine music that was also kind of dark, you know. So, anyways, this is just some stuff that we created at the time, and we were trying to like create this like horror movie vibe. This is the club 𝓬𝓬𝒂 that was just down the street from here. This club goer, Chandelier, recently published a book, Semiotext. This is us at the club. As you can see, we are like probably smaller and younger than most people there. And this, just for kicks, if anybody knows Kevin Hanley, the artist, that's him. And then this is some of the stuff that we were making at the time. As promotional material, where we're killing our the producer for our record and our roadie in this like faux horror photo shoot. And then, you know, around this time I was also going to art center. I was a student there, and I was kind of like a little bit interested in like Asian. I mean, I was a little bit more than a little bit interested in Asian American topics. And this is a piece I made that was like at the time, I still like this piece, but it was like early days of boba. There's one boba place that I would go to, what was called Go-Go Cafe, which was in like, there's like a 99 Ranch there, and it's like a giant plaza off Del Mar, and like, is it Valley or Atlanta?
95.
This is back in 95, 6, and they served you the boba in a stein like this. And all these art center teachers at the time that I had, they were also interested in like conceptual art, and I was like so young, and I was trying to understand it, and I was like, why are they always going to Germany? And so I made this artwork in response to their like obsession with Germany, which was like a kind of quasi-conceptual art still life of a boba tea in a Steiner cup with this ornate kind of thing. And then this is like my Jeff Wall, my version of a Jeff Wall. It was huge. This is my apartment. I had a folding table as my kitchen table, and my roommate's boyfriend posing with his paper mache steak. Anyways, I'm just showing this because I think some of these things might be a little bit cute. I had to like parse through my supply and find, you know, also like I took some documentary photographs and like made Super 8 films of like billiard clubs, and like this is the nightclub 𝓬𝒂. I don't know if it still exists. It was around here somewhere. It's like very posh. But then jumping forward, I'm not gonna say too much, but I guess I would say like my investment in like using cuteness in my work, or what could be perceived as cute. Maybe I'm interested in like the idea of pathos a bit, and like what's discarded. And so like the show I did in Matthew Gallery in Germany, there's a lot about emptiness and loss in it. I'm not gonna say too much about these stairs, but they were in the show, and then there's these like aluminum cast objects like this baby, which also come from my own personal experience where I surf at the beach a lot, and I find trash all the time, and you find very odd things, you know. And I was thinking about these kind of objects that maybe were dear to someone or very intimate in some ways, and then now are just like trash that are, it's almost disgusting at the beach, you know. It's like waterlogged and decaying. Wallet be another one, carry close to the body. Tampon, obviously also very close to the body. So I was thinking about that, and then I also had these photographs of other kinds of empty spaces that at the time there was this, do you remember like on like, I guess it's sort of like the Giphy thing that you could put on your Instagram, that's like an animation thing, but these were like pre-Giphy, so they were like stickers that you could like go through a program and put stickers on your photos and then upload them back to whatever social media platform. So I was making my own stickers and using some of found ones and trying to play with the pixelation. So like in some cases, some of these images, like the macaroon might be like, I took a photo with green screen and manipulated it, and then other ones are just like sort of found. Anyways, but I was putting them on these like kind of empty spaces, like photographs of like, let's say spaces that could turn into something else. So kind of like spaces for future production of something. In this case, it would be like Jack in the Box with Dunkin' Donuts. But, and then I had also like other kinds of empty spaces, like this one's just like a bookshelf with a measuring tape, and then this one is of like the ocean. And then here's another case of like kind of lost sad items. I did this show in Hawaii in 2018. I feel like I'm talking too long. I'm gonna try to end this. Okay, so I talked to these. I was working with these like algae scientists at UC San Diego at the time, and they developed a kind of polymer that's like spongy that could disintegrate, right? Like it's biodegradable, but it also could be, it's also like non-petroleum based. So I thought I could make something with this, and so one of the things I wanted to make was this teddy bear that is in this dirt pile, and it's throughout the course of exhibition, it sort of biodegrades. So here you can see the teddy bear. I was thinking about it as a moldy memory, somewhere between cute and decrepit. And you can see like there's microbes growing on it over time. And the scientists were interested in my project because I could give them like a fragment and they could analyze what microbes are causing the decomposition of the material. So this is just some images of the lab. They were surfers. So they were making like blanks. The inside of the surfboard is also made out of like a polymer, like a foam polymer. And then this is an example of like under the microscope of the microbes decomposing the object. And these are the scientists, Marissa and Suri. More recently, I did a show called Asian Clam. Asian, I don't know if people still use this, but you know, back in the 90s, it was kind of like a call to Asian power, which I still kind of, I use a lot of like, I don't know, maybe it's still totally relevant, I don't know. But I like to play with these things, and so, you know, I was working with, again, scientists that I had like, reached out to. These were like invasive species researchers, and so in this case, Asian clam is not the name of the clam. It's just what people call it when they like want to list it as an invasive species. It's actually called 𝓬𝓪𝓽 𝓬𝓪𝓽, and I talked to the researchers and they were like, yeah, actually we don't call it that Asian clam either. But I thought it'd be funny to like make the clam kind of more assertive, you know, with the Asian. But you know, I was just thinking about this symbolic language attached to invasive species. Obviously, that became like, as I was researching it, Donald Trump started saying China virus, which I was like, oh, crazy. And then just this kind of racialized language, use of language, thinking about power and language, right? And then also how like, you know, invasive species kind of have a bad rap for the most part, but you know, they really are the products of capitalism, of us moving around. They don't really necessarily have a will in the way that like, you know, like I'm gonna invade your space. Like it's not like, you know, they have a will to survive, I guess, but and then actually like the idea of invasive species comes from like a eugenics, very sketchy eugenicist from Sweden, which is totally racist. So like this idea that like, you know, humans find a plant or an animal and therefore it has always existed in this space is also kind of a flawed concept. So I made these because the space was the power station. The only thing, the thing about the Asian clam is it doesn't displace any other animal. It actually is food for animals locally, like halibut or whatever, I can't remember, maybe not halibut, some fish. But the one thing it does that's bad is it clogs the intake valves at power stations. So I thought I would take this pipe, stuff it with clams in different shapes, and then fillet it and then kind of like butterfly it. And so it would create these kind of cute shapes instead of, it's kind of like a fantasy, right? So a cute star. And the clams are living in there, They're not real, they're not alive, they're dead. Sorry. And then I shot a video which has this guy rolling around. I had this wedge with ball pit balls. Anyways, not about my work, but just some reference for also people who work with cuteness and pathos. Mike Kelly is one that I come to a lot. Liked his work since high school. And then also I think about this kind of grandparents aesthetic, which is a lot of pattern, as a friend put it, power clashing, which I also kind of have adopted for myself. This is a picture of old person's Harajuku, Sugamo and Atsuka. Am I pronouncing that? Yeah, okay. And it's, I don't know, it's interesting because I think it's this way of dressing is kind of pervasive throughout many different Asian countries. You could go to Chinatown or San Gabriel Valley and you might find a similar kind of pattern outfit and area where old people buy stuff. A lot of polyesters, flower prints. And then I think, drawing on what everyone else is saying, I think that to me, cuteness, there's a bit of nostalgia attached, and maybe relate to your family and your feelings towards your family members, which can be very complicated. It may not all be cute, but tends to be grandparents. If I had to generalize, might be kind of cute, their personalities. I can't say all. Okay, some might not be so cute, including some in my family. But anyways, don't need to name names. But it's just this kind of I think as I've gotten older too, I've come to feel more proud of being this kind of cute look or cute style. I think when I was younger, I was kind of embarrassed by it. I grew up in the 80s. There was a lot of anti-Japanese stuff happening at the time. And at the same time, Robotech and anime was starting to make it into mainstream culture. So it's taken me a long time to get to a place where I feel okay about cuteness. Maybe also as a middle-aged person, it's not as annoying. But I also kind of agree with this idea that I like this idea of asserting it, being assertive as a cute person. And I think that what's placed upon you when somebody describes you as cute is you're passive, right? It's a passivity, a kind of malleability, a kind of mushiness, and I kind of feel it doesn't have to be that way. And then I just wanted to also say there's this clothing company, CFGNY, which also plays with the acronym. I think one version of it is Cute Fucking Gay New York. But yeah, I feel they remixed this kind of Asian GQ aesthetic from the 90s with where people kind of wear Armani Exchange and stuff like that, mixed with this granny aesthetic of kind of the Sugamo picture, and you see a lot of power clashing. And then these are my former student took these cute photos actually in China. I think it was in like Zhejiang or something. And it's these scooters with like cute fabrics. And then I have a folder in my Instagram called cute, and I was like, you know what, I should just go back into that folder and see what I thought was cute, right? Because like, I did it without thinking of this talk, so like, let's just see. So I found like a lot of animal pictures, like animal and interspecies interactions was a very common one. And then these kind of like pathetic looking 70s type images. But yeah, here's like a dolphin getting saved by, or a dog getting saved by a dolphin, Also kind of, to me this one looks kind of 70s too, even though it's probably not. Of course, like anything in a little burger, more 70s-ish looking stuff. Animals eating fruit. Animal interaction. More animals. More animals. And then, this is not in my cute folder, but I just wanted to point out, some people are repelled by babies, right? Some people think that babies are not cute. And some people think babies are super cute. I would fall into the babies are not cute camp until I had a baby. Then I'm like, oh, my baby's pretty cute. Yes, so that's my baby. But before that, I thought my cat was cute. And, there's my cat. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think all three of you, what's interesting is you gave a lot of examples of cuteness, and I kind of want to situate us a little bit in the sense of we haven't really talked about what cuteness is, right? We've given a lot of examples, and to help us, at least within the context of the four of us, understand what our definition of cute is I want to ask if you could share with us a first or maybe a very important moment in when you registered something as cute, what it was or who it was, and if you can give us an understanding of why you thought it was cute. Anyone?
Okay, I can start. I think my first stuffed animal was probably the first cute thing I saw, and I feel like some of it has to do with it being shaped like a cat and being soft and non-threatening, because I had a real cat and the real cat was very scary, but this cat was there for me when I wanted it. I could hug it, I could look into its eyes, and it felt like mine. So I think there was kind of a possessive quality. Funny thing is I now have a cat that looks like this stuffed animal, and I was looking at it the other day and I was like, wow, I made my dreams come true. It's so cute. But yeah, that's the first and last time I saw something cute or felt something that was cute.
For me, I think I referenced stationery stores, but I have this visceral memory of visiting one for the first time and then seeing all the diaries, all their stickers that you could insert into them, and then just opening it up and all the pages have cute characters on it. And I think it was something about the palette of it, it's squishy, it's sparkly, it's saying things in weird English, but somehow this character makes it super cute. And then I was just I need everything in this store, but I can't buy it because I'm a kid and I don't have any money. So for me that was a very formative sort of cute memory.
I will comment kind of my cute idea from back then could be similar, but I also had a stuffed animal I liked, but I think my cat I thought was cute, but I was a little bit like Elmira with the cat, and I got scratched like crazy, but I didn't care. Like I just had like crazy scratches all the time. But yeah, I got a cat from my grandmother when I was like maybe 6 or so, and I was like probably terrorized, the poor cat. Yeah, we tried to call her like Fluffball or Snowball, even though she was like calico. It didn't look like a snowball at all, but then she ended up like being called Mimi because my grandfather called her that, which is like a Chinese term of endearment for a cat. But then also, I remember getting busted at like a 𝓦𝓱𝓪𝓽 type. I don't know, like I have this very strong memory of like this stationery area in like a 𝓦𝓱𝓪𝓽 type store, and then having like these kind of Sanrio like erasers that smelled really good. And my sister and I started like picking off pieces of it just so we could keep the smell with us. And like then we got busted. Like the security guard came over and was like, "You guys can't do that." Like, but kind of along your two stories.
Yeah, the reason why I asked this is that cuteness as an aesthetic category is very close to how we feel, right? I feel as if all three of you shared something that was like, I had this visceral emotion to this cuteness. So, and whether it's between humans or non-humans or other beings, the shared sense of registering something as cute is also quite important. So, I wanted to see if we could kind of speak about the ties between cuteness and how they turn up in how you think through relationships, not just with other humans, but also maybe with your work or with other non-human animals that you talk through, and what is sort of the significance of cuteness as sort of a moderator for those relationships.
I mean, I really think about children's books when I think about cuteness kind of being a tool or like a middleman to deliver something that's scary. Or even my cat versus my stuffed animal, the cat was out of my control and very scary because he would come at me all the time. But then having a stuffed animal, I could kind of interact with a cat without the danger of being scratched. And then with children's books, a lot of them are always, they're very, very cute, but the topics are really, really dark, and it's a way to translate something that you might not want to deal with or look at like right in the face, but through the cute version, you can kind of understand how you feel about something that's your emotions or a death or I guess like racism or fitting in and all of those kind of negative feelings. Cuteness helps you kind of come to terms with it.
For me, I think like my relationship to cute objects, like domestic things that are meant to be used, like a sponge is meant to get dirty and like, you know, ragged as you use it. Like fly swatters will have like, you know, bug poop on it, you know, after you use it. But like when I collect them, I can't. They just exist as like things for me to look at and then like think about, and then I can't use them. And I don't know why. And I think it has to do with this like cuteness factor. Like I wanted to retain its like cuteness. I don't want it to hurt or like feel bad for using it and ruining its like cute presence. So like for me, that's always been like a thing where I think about my relationship to cuteness. It feels so real in these objects because I have piles of them at home and I just can't use them. They're just like organized by category for one day becoming something, which I don't know what it will become.
I would say that I think cuteness has come a long way. I feel like that in the 80s, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that it wasn't okay to be cute, you know? Like, there wasn't so much cute objects around besides maybe like Disney or something, I don't know. And I feel like now, you know, there's Daiso, there's like there's K-pop, there's so much stuff that's like infiltrated American culture. I'm speaking from the point of view of Asian American, not elsewhere. I think that I think about how a lot of those daiso type cute objects that are in your paintings, for example, have actually existed way back then, like in the 80s. And like my family members maybe had them. And I think that there's a, as I said before, like nostalgia and family is very tied to it. It's a place that felt safe in some, not totally safe, but okay. I'll just say like it felt okay or like familiar, and those objects were there. And when I think about that look, I think about those places back even in the 80s. And my question is, who designed these objects? Who are the designers behind these objects? I want to know, because I don't know.
Yeah.
And like how they've lasted this long, like the same style like that are in your paintings has been around for ages, but like mostly in Asian immigrant kind of homes,
Yeah, I think this may be a good moment to ask a question as you bring up daiso, and there's sort of a proliferation, at least I'm speaking from a New York perspective, where there's Miniso everywhere, there's Tessos, there are other smaller stores that are really just everywhere. There's a Miniso in Times Square now. And so I'm thinking about the state of cuteness today as we consider its relationship to consumerism, the ability for cuteness to be, quote, easy to produce, to distribute, to sell. And I think given the context of our backgrounds and our histories and narratives, that's, I think, a very important thing to consider. How do we navigate sort of cuteness as seen as maybe weakness, at the same time it has incredible consumer power, and also the sort of, what are the consequences of that, right? I think that's, a couple of questions embedded in that.
I think just to answer your question too, like that's always something that I've been interested in. Like, where is the origin? Who is like the producer? When did these products become available? Like, how come there are like pastel colored like, kitchen bowls? Like, how do these exist? And so I feel like I've always been sort of looking for that answer, and then there's like some sort of history present that I can find where it's like in Japan they were like talking about, like it's like coming from youth culture and sort of being able to like, for example, have like cute handwriting, but I'm like, is that the real origin? I'm not sure, because it feels like it's been around for so long. But like I've been thinking a lot about like the motivations behind that type of consumerism, like what types of like ideals or like sort of societal thoughts are, making these decisions onto these objects that are so readily available. Like, are they thinking about who is the person doing the labor? Is that person like a female body? And so is that why they're doing this? And then what does that mean? And how does that go into sort of more problematic territory? I think I've always been interested in sort of like cuteness at like multiple scales, whereas like in one way that same bowl exists in my memory and it's tied to home and nostalgia and sort of my understanding of self, but at the same time, like what were the motivations that created this cute thing that's in so many people's homes at the same time? I don't know if that answers any question.
I keep thinking about like Sanrio and how Sanrio's developed from like a cat that had no mouth and couldn't speak, couldn't smile, like couldn't express anything, and then now their characters are extremely strong personalities and kind of more that like aggressive cute, where it's like the office lady that's fed up and does screamo at the end of the night, or like the lazy egg that gave up and doesn't give a shit about anything. And I feel like, that's more from like a Japanese perspective, or like a Japanese society kind of changing, I think, because that's where it's coming from. But it's kind of interesting to see that in a way the creators of the characters are being influenced by the consumer, because people aren't maybe not buying as much of their kind of empty characters, and are more interested in voting for these kind of like sarcastic, like angry, cute characters. And it is gaining traction also in America. Like there's like a Netflix show for 𝓦𝓱𝓪𝓽, and I feel like a lot of American cartoons are also this like, I'm cute and then I like destroy you or whatever. I don't know, like I'm thinking of like Adventure Time and those kind of cartoons. But so I feel like in some ways, yeah, these cute things are created to be sold, but then the people who are buying it are also kind of changing the landscape of what cute even is, or like how we interpret cuteness.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like in the 90s there was this moment, like I feel like in the 90s there's this moment where all these like punk people were getting into like carrying a lunchbox, you know? And like kind of like going back to like childhood objects and bringing them into like high school while they're like kind of mohawk or something at the same time. And I guess, what am I trying to get at here? I guess I'm just thinking about how like, to me there's a suspension of time with cute themes. Like, you know, I go back to nostalgia a bit, because like, you know, you think about these grannies and they're wearing like cartoony things, and it's like, you know, shouldn't they not wear cartoony things? I don't know, like, but maybe that's just normal, or maybe that's what's like cheap and available, or like, is it like a kind of suspending of time or something? I don't know, like, because I mean, like, a lot of those objects, like Daiso and all these places, it's like, they're coming from like China and what Taiwan used to be, and other countries like produce a lot of goods, right? Like 99-cent goods, cent store goods also come from there a lot of times. And but then the Daiso version is so different because the designers are different, right? Like you go to like 99-cent store, it's like really strong colors, and then you go to Daiso, it's like pastel colors. And then you go to Chinatown, and it's like kind of also pastel, actually. So I guess I don't know, it's something to think about, but I feel like there's a suspension of time, I guess I'd say, like, in that nostalgia, you know, and like, you're kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the suspension of time is a question of childhood and what are we allowed to do as adults, and what does cuteness allow us to do, to experience what it means to be a child, and are there problems with that? What are the implications of that? Wondering if you could think through a little bit about that very much suspension of time, what that means for us within society as we think through cuteness.
Yeah, I think like cuteness is can be very naive, and I mean, if you really surround yourself with only cute things and don't look at like the street or like I don't know, like don't look out the window or anything in any city, you're living in this little fake world of like perfect, innocent, happy, which is also childhood. And supposedly childhood is like innocence and happiness and the best time of your life. So that's like the dangerous part, I think, is kind of glossing over all the bad things. And I think, again, with Japan, it's like super cute, kind of was intentionally trying to glaze over all the terrible things they did to other countries in Asia. And it kind of worked within the Western perception of Japan. I think people just like don't even remember what happened or know what happened. And yeah, I think in that sense, it can be like used as a tool to hide the bad stuff, which is very bad. Dangerous.
Sketchy.
Yeah. Yeah.
and also like, I don't know, by engaging with cuteness, you can suddenly suspend time for yourself and enter into this almost like childhood time, and like for me it's definitely like a girlhood time, and it's like, and then you can take on the characteristics of what that means. So I think like you can, you know, sort of make these like, be like rebellious, but without real fangs or something. Like there's just something interesting about that sort of state of being where you're sort of like, there's so much potential because you're like in a state of sort of, it's like a liminal space of not having yet become an adult, and like being able to just access that by like embodying cuteness, like with cute gestures or like cute objects on your person, I think is like really interesting because it's, I don't know what other things you can do that with. It's like almost like you don't need a lot to embody cuteness, which I find interesting. Like I'm still thinking through like what that means to do it, but I find a lot of like happiness in that, and I don't know why.
I think that like you can both love cute things and also like mess with things a bit too, like because I think, but then that's like, is it cute anymore or not? Like I think about memes, you know, like there's like a cute cat and it's like, then it's saying something kind of like sarcastic and dark, you know? But then I also think like, okay, I grew up in California, it's like kind of pastel like here, and Disneyland, like every kid grows up going to Disneyland at some point. Even your junior high school good grades field trip, you go to Disneyland and everyone drops acid there. And it's like, you know, or not everyone, but like, you know, half the kids are like in Disneyland jail. And then like, you know, they get like caught stealing and they go to jail, and then they come out and they're like, oh, I was in jail the whole time. And then like, you know, other kids are like smoking pot or sneaking and stuff, and I'm like, that's part of growing up here. And it's like this mixture of like cute and like, yeah, kind of like psychos or like weirdo, like freaky, you know, and I'm kind of down with that in a way. Like I like, that's my like, if I had to choose my favorite cute, because I have a lot of cute objects at home, like I really do, and some of them I won't even let my son play with because I don't want to ruin him. So, you know, but I like the twisted ones, you know, yeah. But not like twisted like Hot Topic. Like I'm not into that. Sorry.
I just want to take a moment. I'm going to ask another question. We'll open it up, so just have your questions ready. Related to this, and we've sort of touched on it, but the variations of cuteness, right? Which includes cuteness and its proximity to violence and to fear and all these other types of emotions. Given all of this, and I think it's a reflection of kind of what you're talking about, how cute wasn't really good to, it wasn't a good state to be sort of in the 80s, but now it's transforming because it's become so complex. When thinking about the power of cuteness, and I don't necessarily mean it in like a positive or negative way, but just power as an inherent ability to affect others, I'm wondering, what do you see as like the potential power, the power of cuteness? And we've talked about it here and there, but if there was one thing that you could select that you find particularly powerful of cuteness, what do you think it would be?
Yeah, I mean, definitely for me, I think of it as like making scary things not scary. So in the West, like robots and AI and all of that stuff is really scary because we see Terminator, we have like machines that don't look human or cute, but then in Asia, the robots and the machines are really, really cute, and so people accept them more and don't find them threatening, and like there's so many instances of cute robots helping like people in hospitals or just not being as like threatening to the way of life, which I think is, you know, on one side really good because not every machine is gonna kill you or like out there to destroy your life. At the same time, yeah, it can also like mask if there is any sort of threat to like jobs or something like that. But yeah, I think making something less scary is probably the best use of cuteness to me, or the most valuable thing you can get from cuteness.
I think for me, it's like cuteness's adaptability is really powerful. Like everything can be made cute if you try to, which I think is like amazing and scary at the same time. Like it can be everything from just like how you speak to like a certain thing you put in your hair to like just this can or like anything. It's just that power to exist on so many different things, like from like just gestures to image to object is kind of, for me, like amazing and terrifying at the same time, especially now when you see it sort of like used as such a product in all sorts of ways. It's just like seeing it carry over and make the most mundane things, like, you know, like tooth floss or something that's like pink and sparkly. Like it's just bizarre how it can do that for me.
I think at best, if you were to like think of it in a more utopian way or something, I would say maybe cuteness can invoke empathy, and that's kind of a nice thing. You know, like I keep looking at those little twin stars over and over spinning, and I'm just like, they're so cute. And I just think about like, you know, like in the cute world, like maybe, you know, like goodness prevails or something. I don't know, or like sweetness prevails, and like, you know, I don't know. I mean, but you know, like obviously like a cute K-pop star is a little different, like they're real people, you know, but like maybe an image is like a cartoon is a different thing. On the robot note, I just wanted to say that I went to like a robot cafe with my son in Japan, and then these like cat robots serving you. But it was like just a tray, like a stack of trays that had food on it, and like we figured that he was fine with it, and then he was like standing there in the aisleway, and then the robot came to him, and he'd never been more terrified. So he like screamed and was like, so it was pretty cute.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to the audience for questions.
Yeah, in the back. I was all the way back. I was wondering if anyone, I mean, I'm assuming everything's Korean, but if there's more of a concept of aegyo and like aegyo.
Aegyo.
No, aegyo.
Oh, okay.
And like, basically, do you think that concept is inherently political, like, as Asian women either living, or Korean women living in Korea, and maybe how that differs as a Korean American woman under like things like the white American base?
Were you able to hear the question? Okay, yes.
I think about it a lot because I do not have any aegyo, like at all. And like if you don't know what aegyo is, it means like cute behavior, like acting like, you know, like this or something, or doing like this kind of thing. And like for me, when I do that, like all my fingers like curl up into my hand and I can't handle it. So I feel like it's a very interesting thing because I feel like people can utilize it to their advantage when they're like conscious of it. Like they do it to like ingratiate themselves to a certain audience or make them seem more appealing to a certain type of person. And I think if you have awareness of it, you can use it in that way. But at the same time, it's very conflicting because you know what that's sort of playing into. But at the same time, like if it's just between you and your like closest friends or family, like that's a way of also expressing your like closeness or like love for someone. So I feel like as with all elements of cuteness, it has this like weird spectrum from everything from something very political to something very personal. So I feel like it just runs this gambit, and I can't really say it's like one thing or the other.
Maybe a sort of branch from that is, a lot of you said like there's like an embodiedness of cuteness, and maybe thinking about that in relationship to something being political, of you having a certain type of body and expressing that cuteness. Maybe we can think about it in that way, so it's not just ego related. I'm curious what you think about that. Does that then make cuteness inherently political if you were embodying it? If you're like expressing cuteness, or I think specifically for ego, since it's done by a person.
If you're acting cute, are you being political? Is that what you're asking?
I feel like if you do something radical and then you're like, that's just like the icing on the cake. But I also think of like bimbo culture and how that's kind of been resurfacing, and people saying they're reappropriating it as like a power. But it's hard to say because like, I think it makes sense if you don't look at the like quote unquote patriarchy as ever changing or society ever changing, and so you're kind of just doing what you can within that construct to get power from it. So like, I know like people who are into that kind of culture are more like, I'm gonna make that person open the door for me because that's me having power over them, and then the cuteness kind of creates that exchange. But then it also definitely, you know, kind of makes you the submissive person at the same time, or you, I don't know, I mean, I think of like politics in America, and women who are seen as cute are not seen as powerful, no matter what they do.
Yeah, I think that it's not inherently political to be cute, to act cute, because I mean, I've met cute, sinister people, like horrible, you know, and I've also met like very genuinely sweet, cute people too. And, you know, it just seems like I know this way of acting, because I think in Chinese culture there's a similar kind of way, you know, so to speak, and sometimes it is genuinely like very cute, and sometimes it's like, watch out for this one, you know, like, what are they up to, you know? So I don't know if it's like the act itself means anything. It's just more like, and then I agree with you, like, you know, what you're saying about patriarchy, and like, it's like, you know, like, oh, if you act cute to get something, but you're still like functioning within the like, you know, you're not changing the system. I guess if the world just became like little twin stars, that would be changing the system. Like everyone, like if, but then would that also be maniacal? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like that might also be like kind of messed up. It'd be like, yeah. So,
Just sort of the limitations of cuteness as an aesthetic.
yes.
Another question? Yes. Oh, sorry. We'll go this way.
Yeah.
I think I want to kind of further extrapolate on that concept. Like, how does something like soft power of cuteness, like BTS speaking at the UN, how does that like translate into actual power worldwide, or like political power, where we don't see as much like Asian American representation in the political system right now? You know, like how, I'm wondering how that soft power will. Is there potential for actual like power in the future? Because I've been thinking about that concept of just like how marketable K-pop is and how it's become, but also thinking about how it's like reinforcing kind of what Korea has been to the U.S. like little brother to that relationship, and kind of yeah, but we're at kind of a very interesting time. Just wondering what you see in the future.
I think it's really interesting because like the visibility, you know, of like Asians as being cool and like this kind of like, you know, like everyone loves them and is obsessed and like thinks they're hot is kind of like amazing to me as somebody who grew up in the 80s when like the Asian version of being Asian was like you're the nerd that gets picked on and like you're the bottom of the barrel situation. So it's like that would be like the visibility, you know, in a mainstream kind of way. But then I don't know, like to me, and like you know, you can say there's also other films and stuff, the Academy Awards, whatever. But then I'm like, is that enough? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't give a lot of spectrum is kind of limited, you know. But then I'm not against it either. I'm like, I was like stoked to be at the gym and see like BTS like on the TV, like on SNL or something. You know what I mean? That was awesome.
It could like reinforce imperialism, but also like how can we utilize cuteness in like alignment with oppressed peoples and work each other out.
So like I think about like cuteness's ability to make something familiar. I think like that as a soft power strategy is really powerful. Like I remember when I first started making this type of work, I had to explain so much about like Korean pop culture because people had just no idea, no frame of reference. And then suddenly now like they can say things to me in Korean and like they're referencing all these things and it like freaks me out and I'm just like, oh, when did this happen? So I think like that makes me quite hopeful because it went from like a point of people just being like question mark, I don't understand, to like something that is familiar and within their like vocabulary of like something they're willing to try to understand. So I think that is really powerful. But I don't know how to take that further. But I think like the example Lulu brought up of like the K-pop stans using K-pop content to like drown out like you know, like those like discriminatory contents and tags on like social media, that something was like so surprising to me because like I think when K-pop first hit the like US market, that was not where I saw the fandom really being. So that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, I think something else that's interesting is there is definitely an exchange in pop culture right now with Asia, specifically Korea, and America because American pop culture was so dominant. And so there's like, I've noticed there's like K-pop groups, I guess, becoming more American and speaking up more and having more of a voice on their own lives and also like how they speak on the internet, which is a good thing in the sense that they're gaining more power, they're becoming more globally recognized, and so then they are becoming more powerful as like individuals and hopefully changing the way pop culture from Asia can be seen and even influencing like people in Korea, in Japan, in Asia. I think hopefully that's like a good part of like the future. And like you said, I think just having a foot in the door and like having any sort of different perception of Asia in the West coming from an Asian source, I think is better than what we've had in the past. So, yeah, those are the positives.
I think you're also asking a question around what is the role of art and culture at large in driving change, and I see cuteness as just one example of that, one tool of that. So I think it'll depend on how people process the power and change that they want to make, and cuteness is just one example. There are also, you know, other forms that are not as cute, I would say, that are also, that could be used for the same reason. Yeah. Although I think we're gonna go here, and Alex in the back.
Well, firstly, thank you guys so much for this conversation. It's like adrenaline in my veins. It's like everything that I love. But I also like what this these presentations have brought up in me is like I was thinking about my mom is the most anti-cute person in my life. 'Cause she, like when we go to like H-Mart or Zion Market or Daiso and we see those like cute accessible products, she always says like it's very 𝓤𝓮𝓪𝓷𝓼, like it's very tacky. And for her it's like very much like a class thing, I think. Like she equates it to like cheapness because of its accessibility, and like she really likes, I guess, like IKEA products, like 'cause they kind of have like that minimalism and like timelessness to them, and I think it's really interesting because one, I think they're very cute, but also two, I think about how like in our current age, like we have like I guess like high fashion artists like Sandy Liang, and then I think Marc Jacobs also released like a new, somewhat like arguably like cuter line, and I guess I'm wondering like as we kind of see this proliferation of like cuteness into high culture and consumerism, I'm wondering what you think like the social minorities like relationship to cuteness will change as we see like something that was very accessible to us as children is now becoming like at something that is priced out into like a more expensive price point.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's something about cuteness that like people can't take seriously no matter what form it takes. Like, I mean, there were, you know, those collaborations with I think Murakami and then Louis Vuitton back in the day, but I don't know if that ever shifts the barometer of how people consider cuteness as something that's like luxury. I think like it then entered into luxury as like a thing where you can now have the option of having like a cute version of a luxury object. But I don't know if that changed people's perceptions of cuteness at large. And I think like it still is a struggle to talk about cuteness because people don't take it that seriously. And I don't know why when it's so pervasive and everywhere. And like, so I'm not sure if even that will change it. Like what will it take for people to see it differently? Like that I also have no idea. Maybe like given more time and more people using it and it having like a different type of visibility, I think could generate that, but I'm not sure.
I think that it depends on how cute it goes. Like, you know, there's a gradient of cuteness. Like, you know, you think about Miu Miu, they have a lot of cutes. It's like they're very into like the cute girl aesthetic, and or like, you know, Dover Street Market has a lot of cute. Like I got this there, so just saying. But you know, yeah, like in terms of like fashion or luxury, I feel like, you know, with fashion it's just always changing, you know, and yeah, they will appropriate things like at a whim, you know, like 'cause it's not in their culture not in the culture. I think they're to be so. I don't know, authorship is not such an issue in the same kind of way. Although people are suing like H&M's or suing what's that brand? The one that's very controversial. Shein, yeah. But yeah, is it just about fashion? Is that what or just in general more?
I guess the Murakami reference was a good point too, because I do think it's really interesting how their prints have his prints have been like very commercialized, and I think like at the Broad, I think the Murakami pieces are some of the most popular ones to go to and might be like extremely recognizable. I don't know, I guess I was also thinking of the conversation of like K-pop, like they're never sponsored by Sanrio, they're always sponsored by like Yali Gucci or like Prada. And so I do kind of always wonder what that relationship is. I guess it's just more pervasive in fashion. In terms of like consumerism and like representation for cuteness.
Yeah, it's in cars. I mean, like K-pop stars are ambassadors for cars and things like that too. I think that just goes to show how powerful cuteness is. Like, it doesn't matter if it's $2 or like $200,000. It's still something people want. So, and I also think no one can own cuteness. Like, it's just, if you think something's cute, that's that it's cute, you know? Like, even something in random that's not meant to be cute, I think, can become cute. Like this little bottle with water is really cute. So,
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, like an oak leaf, if you like carried it like this, and you cared for it, that's when I thought about the empathy comment, because I was like, you know, you could treat something with care, and then it suddenly becomes kind of cute in some way, you know?
Cuteness also, I think, in opposition to seriousness, is probably the reason why, no matter how much it costs, it's going to be cute and separate from the cost itself, right? And so I think that's why it's important that cuteness has all these little variations within it, so that it makes room for, I guess, the Gucci and the Louis Vuittons, and also the water bottle on our table, right? Thanks.
So we have a question from
Okay.
IG Live, and it's actually like basically what I was going to ask too. That's perfect. So at Chugio or at Chugio, I don't know how to pronounce your handle, is saying they asked, I'm wondering if the panelists have any thoughts or can expand on how cuteness intersects with gender or sexuality. That kind of dovetails into like what I wanted to ask. Like I was thinking specifically of like this sort of East Asian cute aesthetic, and if you feel like there's any connection between that and how Asians are perceived in America. You know, I mean, sort of 20 years old at this point, but like Lisa Lowe talks about how being Asian in America, it's a gendered racial identity. So like the men are emasculated, and then the women are simultaneously infantilized and hypersexualized. So I just would love to hear people smarter than myself talk about that.
I don't know about smarter than you. But I guess like that's a very tough question, because I think it's like that conflict is so like you feel it, because like I love cute things, but then like you're aware of this conflict and you're aware of this perception, so then it's just like this like struggle internally to deal with notions around like perceptions of how cuteness has been utilized to essentially infantilize and also like sexualize women. And I think it's interesting because in like K-pop, I think it's a way of almost like disarming sexuality, where like women can present as very sexualized, but then because it's all in this like cute package, it's okay now, and like that's how they express it. So like I feel like it's, I don't know, I'm still trying to resolve issues around that. I think within cuteness, it exists across this kind of spectrum simultaneously. So that's what makes it so difficult to just, you know, see it one way or the other, because of your own like personal relationship to it, how it affects you or other people's perceptions of you, but then also it's something that you can utilize to sort of like retaliate against that. So it's like very complicated is all I can say to that.
One thing I think about, I mean, it's sort of a little tangential, but I remember my mom always loves to say like, what American people see as cute with Asian faces is not what Asian people think is cute. Like, you know, like a popular like face for American would not be like considered a cute one in Asia, let's say. Which sounds harsh. Like I don't even want to think of the ways. Whatever. What am I saying? Repeating this. But I guess I mean like, you know, I don't know, like I guess like I've spent a decent amount of time in Asia, and but I grew up here, and like, you know, I am very aware of like how like Asians are perceived here, and it is oftentimes like you get the you're so cute or whatever, you know, it's like kind of annoying, you know, and yeah, I mean I do think that like all the things that we brought up, like I mean I feel like I could dive deeper into this, but I'm just gonna say what's on the top of my mind. It's like, you know, when I talk about care and all these things, those are also like very like gendered kind of ideas, right? And like I guess the possibility to say maybe cute could like want, you know, maybe it can like somehow go beyond the gender somehow, like, or maybe that's a hope. But I think there's still work to be done. You know, on like, I don't know, just like how the world has evolved so much, right? Like since I was like a kid, like in a very cool way to me, like this idea of like sexuality has changed a lot, you know, pronouns, all these things I think in relation to power and language is really important, and I think maybe like cute being more proliferated is also interesting. I don't know what it's doing quite yet, but I hope there's some possibility for it to like break through.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same question then. Live person. Yeah, I came so late, so maybe you guys have discussed already, but I think this oppression of sexuality, you know, it's like minimizing like female power, especially in patriarchal society. It's okay to be cute, but it's not okay to be overtly sexual. You know, right? And I think that has a lot to do with this cuteness that we talked about. It's also cuteness. It's a purity, like when something's not sexualized, like, you know, kids are cute, you know, and there's no like neither boy or girl, you know, those are cute, like, you know, the cartoon. So I think it has a lot to do, especially in Asian culture, it has a lot to do with like the oppression of sexuality coming out, emphasizing cuteness, because sexuality is a power, especially for feminine power, right? It's a power, but they have to minimize it. So it has to come out in another form or another way, which is the cuteness, I think. And also another thing that I observe is the, you know, androgyny. You know, androgyny is cute. Because child are very androgynous. They're neither boy or girl. You know. And then in this time of history, gender is more open, and androgyny is more welcome. You know, beyond the measure of, you know, like the religious or whatever kind of religion, the gender has, you know, restricted the years, 3,000 years in human history, but now it's okay to be gay, it's okay to be trans. You know, I feel like in the future, I don't think there's going to be any gender, or it's going to be either genderful or genderless. There's no gender. Humans are becoming more like non-binary, neither female or male. So I just think that, for me personally, I think that there has to be a lot to do with this sexuality, gender, and cuteness. It's about power.
Like a repression.
Yeah,
almost.
it's about power.
Yeah.
Well, female power has been, like, you know, oppressed and suppressed for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not okay to be female, to be sexual. You know, especially in Asian countries such as Korea, very, very sexual.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
So I definitely think it's about power.
Yeah.
There's Sian Nai, who wrote a book called Our Aesthetic Categories, saying cute, interesting. She talks about how the sort of like culturally codified ways that show up in our aesthetic judgments, and I think you're kind of pointing to that, like what are the notions around sexuality that are showing up in our understanding of cuteness as an aesthetic. And I think that's what's also really interesting about cuteness, is that as it is so malleable, it is becoming responsive to those cultural elements that are shifting constantly in society. So I think that's also sort of the challenge with cuteness, like you said, is historically it's going to change, current society is totally different in terms of what's happening, and I think maybe cuteness can be sort of a vehicle to understand that, and understand that there are also its limitations, right, that you're pointing out. So I just wanted to kind of bring some of her knowledge in here, because it's very important.
Text is linked here, in case people are wondering.
I think, did you one more question? That's okay. Yeah.
First of all, I think everyone's panelists and their questions have been so excellent. just so happy there's like this conversation about cuteness. I don't know, I just think that, you know, I like what to say about like cuteness is always like kind of on the opposite end of seriousness, and like also just growing up as this little Korean kid, like having cuteness as a label is kind of awesome. But I'm just interested in like, you know, sorry, I had so many thoughts and now I'm kind of they're getting jumbled, but I don't know, cuteness to me is a very serious thing to me, just in the sense that like, you know, in many ways, like I think that things are cute and that emotion and the empathy that it invokes is like such a powerful thing to just like be irreverently like joyful and happy about things. And what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that, is there a way that, you know, we can kind of reclaim this cuteness in a way that's meaningful, or, you know, without just recreating these like power structures that are kind of imposed on us for, like, you know, isolation or like weakness, or like, you know, repression of sexuality. And I was really interested in like what you had to say about like, you know, cuteness kind of, it's come a long way since you were growing up, and I'm just wondering, is there ever going to be a point of cuteness where it's like, you know, kind of we're able to move beyond some of the connotations that we can whatever, or like, I don't know, because for me, I just like, so like, I think growing up and being an adult, like, it's almost like cuteness is reserved for youthfulness or immaturity or whatever, and I don't know, I'm just wondering if there's like ways maybe a big thing that I take that on and kind of not just be like recreating the same power structures that are, you know, pressing us because of that. Sorry, that was kind of a jumbled question.
I think it's the powers within you. You know, the powers within you to be you, and just keep pursuing. You know, keep on, and reclaim it. You know, I think by us all being who we are, and you know, like just pushing forward. This is how we do it. That's how I feel. You know, like, you know, fuck the world.
I also think of cuteness in like an intimate sense. So like, I'm not very good at like communicating feelings, especially to someone I'm seeing like romantically. And a lot of the times I'll do cute gestures to kind of get the point across. So in some ways it's like cuteness is used to like become more vulnerable with people, and through that there's like better communication, and it brings your guard down, so you are able to have more compassion, kind of like you were saying, or like not feel so defensive or nervous about being. I think it's almost like everyone has to be cute, or like the two people communicating with each other have to be cute at the same time, so that it kind of brings everyone down to, or up or whatever, to a level where there can be more vulnerable communication.
I have a similar response as Amy. Like, I think as people who think about cuteness in a more complicated way, use it and continue to use it in what they do, I think that will change how people perceive it. I mean, that is very hopeful of a way of thinking about it, but I mean, I hope that is the case. Like, that's why I think I continue to use it, regardless of whether it's taken like seriously or not in an art setting where people might not respond to it because they're like, oh, that's just some like, you know, cute thing. Like, if they could dismiss it, but I want to keep using it. So I think it's just important for people who enjoy it and think about it more seriously to use it in whatever that they do.
Thank you. I think we'll stop there.
So we have like your key box and refreshments, so feel free to hang out and rearrange the chairs. I want to thank all the panelists, and I also want to especially thank our ASL interpreters for all their hard work. Yeah, thanks all for coming. I feel like we need the Care Bear stare meme.